I'm giving out one bet for every single fight this weekend at UFC 323. If you are new here, we're not giving predictions. I am not picking winners. I'm literally going through every single fight and finding one bet that I think is going to hit, and I'm going to give it to you guys. We've been successful so far since starting this show in April. I made a post. We've hit 200 bets, lost 139, hitting around 70%. That's just math off the top of my head. It might be a little under, a little above, but that's good nonetheless, especially when I'm giving no plays that are really over minus 200. Everything is plus money or minus 120, minus 150, and so far up. But we're not giving away big favorites or anything like that. Not a whole bunch of juice. Last week, Arman Tsarukyan sub to take us home in the last fight, plus 330. We've been absolutely crushing it, boys. We've hit more plays than we've missed in the last 4 or 5 weeks. So we're going for a little streak here. I'm going to quit yapping and get right into it. Man, nobody's doing those, though. I got to reiterate. A lot of people like to pick winners and do predictions, and that stuff's good. It's useful information, but it's not hard sometimes to go pick these minus 400, minus 500, like Mansour Abdul Malik, minus 1,200. Finding a bet and standing behind it and doing it week in, week out, I don't see anybody else doing that. So let's get into it, boys. First fight on the card, we're getting Muhammad Naimov taking on Myron Santos. This one's pretty interesting to me. And originally, I was thinking Naimov maybe had a chance just because he's got UFC experience as well now. He can go to the wrestling game. He does whatever it takes to get wins. And Myron Santos has yet to really take off with his career. He got into the UFC off of a big knockout on the finale of The Ultimate Fighter. But since then, man, he arguably lost the fight to Francis Marshall. I think that fight was a little closer than people were really giving it credit to be. He got hurt early in that fight. I think he just needs to tighten things up, and he's going to be a decent fighter. The striking is going to be better than Naimov. I think he hits harder, is going to have more power here. I think he's going to rip the body, rip the leg kicks, and it's going to start to add up and do some damage as it wears on. And I think Myron Santos has the better cardio here. He's a big favorite. I don't like that whatsoever. We've seen him hurt before. So I think if you take this fight to end by finish, you're kind of covering all your bases here. It's plus money, plus 140 to end inside the distance. I think that's what I'm going to rock with in this first fight between Muhammad Naimov and Myron Santos. All right. Speaking of Mansour Abdul Malik, he's taking on Antonio Trocoli. I don't have a whole lot to say about this fight. I think Trocoli, however you say it, 3 losses. Lost on I guess his fight got overturned on the Contender Series, but gets into the UFC, loses the Shara Bullet, loses the Tresean Gore. I understand the Shara Bullet loss, and Tresean Gore, hits hard, has a nasty guillotine. He can catch people, but I just don't think he's UFC level whatsoever. I think he kind of got into the UFC off of Mackenzie Dern's name because they were dating and everything. That went sour. He gets hit a lot. He's got to get fights to the ground where he's a good Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner, but he doesn't have any wrestling at this UFC level to get the fights there. And like I said, we've seen him TKO'd down, knocked out. We've seen him submitted. I think Mansour Abdul Malik has there's a possibility he could do either of those things. I'm going to keep this one simple too. I'm going to take Mansour Abdul Malik to win in the first round at minus 120. And I like to do this on a lot of these, big favorites that I think are definitely going to finish the fight. I'll sprinkle on that round 2 at plus 380, and I'll do it to where I'm making money no matter which round happens. But I'm leaning round 1. I think he comes out looking to prove a point after the draw with Cody Brundage, and I think he gets Trocoli out of there. Next fight. This one I'm super interested in and excited for just because this is going to be all action, or it should be. We get Ibo Aslan taking on Iwu Barnewski. Ibo Aslan dropped the ball in his last fight against Billy Elikana. He thought he won. I mean, he just got caught looking in the mirror, man. He wasn't throwing any punches. It was basically a stand-up fight for 15 minutes. Ibo Aslan landed 28 significant strikes, and at the UFC level, that's not going to get it done whatsoever. The fight before that, he gets taken down twice by Ion Kudalaba and gets submitted. Then he's knocking out Rafael Sequeira, who gets knocked out and finished by basically everybody. Anton Trocoli, no longer in the UFC. And then he beat Paulo Renato Jr. on the Contender Series really early in round 1. So his win condition is to just find that big knockout shot. Baranowski, however, I think if he stays on the feet with Aslan, he can make it competitive. He can hurt Aslan, maybe even finish him, but you run the risk of getting cracked by Ebo, who does have a ton of power, like I mentioned. I don't see why he messes with the striking whatsoever. Iwu Baranowski is a great grappler and has phenomenal judo, and I think he goes straight to it in this spot. I mean, it's smart of him. We've seen Aslan get completely stuck on his back and not know how to get back to his feet and basically just put himself in submissions. And I think Iwo Baranowski is going to do exactly that. I usually don't like taking, guys making their debut, especially on pay-per-view cards in a big crowd, because there is a lot of pressure that comes with that. And, we don't know how they're going to react to the big stage, the bright lights, the weight cut, the whole fight week, everything. But I do think this guy is locked in. I think he's talented. And I think if anybody can get a win in their debut, it's a guy like Iwu Baranowski. So I'm actually going to take him to win by finish because I think he can get the knockout. But likely, I think he puts Ebo on his back and finds the sub. We'll take Iwu by finish, and we'll sprinkle that submission prop at plus 550. It's a decent number. People look at his record. They see the knockouts. They watch his fight in the Contender Series. They think knockout. But this dude has a serious ground game, in my opinion. I think he's going to show it. Iwu by sub plus 550 could be a sneaky one for sure, but the official play, Iwu by finish in this spot. Stuffed up as hell, too, by the way, boys. We got like 7 to 8 inches of snow where I'm from. It's been nasty. It's been cold. I got to move to Florida or something. We'll see if the kids and the wife are down because, bro, I don't know how many more of these winters I can take. It gets absolutely brutal here. You mix that in with 6 weeks of no UFC, and it's going to be that much worse. So please pray for me. All right, next fight. Edson Barbosa taking on the man coming out of retirement, Jalen Turner. I've seen a lot of mixed feelings about Jalen Turner this week online. He retired from the sport after taking a few bad losses, and now he's back. He found God. He's a changed man, whatever you have it. And I see some people kind of thinking he's just coming back because he needs money. But honestly, Jalen Turner, I think he would have figured out a way to make money no matter what outside the UFC. He seems like a really good dude with a good head on his shoulders. And I think he'd have succeeded at basically anything he wanted to try after fighting. I think he's locked back in, if I'm being honest. Kind of a guess, but everything I'm hearing, I think Jalen Turner is coming to win this fight. And after, the fights he's had recently, if he was going to retire, I don't think he would find that motivation again to come in here, take beatings, get choked out, whatever it was. But I think the UFC would like to get him back in the win column because he's a guy you can market. And Edson Barbosa, for an opponent here, is interesting. He's a lot older, has been through some wars, tons of damage on him. And now that he is older, I know that weight cut at 145 was awful for him. And he's moving up to 155, but not just moving up a weight class for the last couple of fights. He's also taken on the biggest lightweight in Jalen Turner, who's 6'3", and I have no idea how he makes this weight class. So I think this is an uphill battle for Edson. If you look where Jalen Turner has really struggled, you look at Renato Moicano, gets taken down, controlled, and TKO'd. Dan Hooker, he very well could have won that fight. Kind of gassed out towards the end. Mateusz Gamrot very well could have won that fight. But, that's a great grappler there too. And then he won a ton of fights in the UFC. So the theme I kind of see is that Jalen struggles on the ground. He gets worn out from the grappling, but Edson Barbosa is not going to really push that game here. Edson Barbosa is a striker. He's going to want to stand and try to find that knockout shot. Edson's looked like a little gun shy. Like he doesn't want to pull the trigger as much lately, and he's going to be hard. It's going to be harder to hit Jalen Turner with that size and height and reach and length. I think Jalen Turner gets this done, man. And not only gets it done, I think Jalen Turner finds the knockout. It's plus 100. I'm going to take it. He could get a club and sub. He could find a submission for sure. I think he's going to be a little hesitant to go to the mat, though, with anybody after some of the losses he's taken. And I could see him getting mount, or if he does get it to the ground, just raining down shots like he did against Bobby Green. He wasn't looking for a sub on top of Bobby Green. He was looking to put the lights out. I think he can do the same thing here against Edson. We've seen Edson hurt, pretty frequently in the last couple of fights, and Jalen Turner has some power in the hand. So Jalen Turner by KO plus 100. I could see this being Barbosa's retirement fight as well. Next fight up, we're getting Marvin, the Italian Dream Vettori, taking on Bruno Ferreira. This one's interesting. I have a pretty strong opinion of this one. I could very well be wrong here, but I like Marvin Vettori this week. And I made a video about it, put it out, and I'm going to run down the same points right now. I think Bruno Ferreira is a guy who's dangerous, obviously has the big power in his hands, can submit people, is a good grappler on the mat. I think he's in the wrong weight class. 5'10" at middleweight. I think he should be at 170s. He's shorter, stockier, and I think that's where a lot of his explosiveness and power does come from. But he's not going to go out there and put on a boxing clinic. I don't think he has the reach and the boxing game to do so. He's looking for that big power shot, and when that shot doesn't come or he can't find knockouts, we see him struggle a little bit. He beat Jackson McVeigh in his last fight. Don't think Jackson McVeigh is a UFC caliber fighter. Beats Armen Petrosian before that. Proved he wasn't a well-rounded enough mixed martial artist to be in the UFC and got cut. And lost to Abus Magomedov before that. Completely gassed out. Abus Magomedov was landing takedowns in the second half of that fight with ease and pulled off the submission against Bruno in round 3 there. Not the best look in the world getting subbed by that. Before that, knocks out Dustin Stoltzfus. After that fight was kind of trending towards Stoltzfus, in my opinion, in that first round. Beats Phil Hawes, which everybody does. Loses to Nursultan. I mean, you go down the list and it's like all of his wins besides Gregory Rodriguez aren't like super, super high level wins, I guess you could say. And some of his losses, man, he's getting finished too. So he's never been to a scorecard in the UFC. Marvin Vettori is a decision machine. The guy's so durable, you can't finish him. And, when he wins, he can out-volume you. He can land bigger shots at time, not bigger shots, but just lands more frequently, more significant strikes. And the guy's a super underrated grappler. I think he's got a good wrestling game. I think he's good with his jiu-jitsu. We saw him take the back of Brendan Allen and try to lock in that rear naked choke real quick. Wasn't able to do so, but Brendan's an animal. Brendan's going to fight for titles. He's a top 10 opponent. His fight before that, Roman Dolidze, is a guy who could fight in the top 10. Jared Cannonier, former title contender, lost to Robert Whittaker, former champ. Israel Adesanya, former champ. So there's a theme here, and it's Marvin Vettori is fighting the highest level of competition in the middleweight division, and Bruno Ferreira is fighting the Jackson McVeighs. Could Bruno clip him and knock him out for the first time in his whole entire career? Possibly, but Marvin's never even been dropped. So I don't really see that happening. I see if Marvin's smart, Marvin comes out here and just tests the grappling right away because Bruno's going to get tired. He's going to wear out. And if Marvin does get the takedown and ends up on top and gets control time, Marvin's not going to just lay in your guard. He's going to beat you up from the top. He's going to wear you down. And I think if Marvin implements that game early, it's going to pay dividends in the long run. And it's going to open up opportunities to find finishes in the second or third or just cruise to a decision. So I'm taking Marvin Vettori on the money line. Got it at minus 110 earlier in the week. I think you look at round 2 and round 3 sub as well. Marvin's got, like I said, decent grappling, and Bruno leaves himself open when he's gassed. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But Marvin Vettori money line, official play for this fight. People hate that too. I've got so many comments about Bruno's going to smoke this dude. It's like Bruno Ferreira, I don't think is ever going to, have an amazing career inside the top 20 in the UFC. So, all right, next fight, Nazim Sadykhov taking on Fares Ziam. And this is a fight I've gone back and forth with multiple times just for the fact that I think this is like one of the most evenly matched fights on the card for sure. Ziam, 5-fight win streak, Mike Davis, Matt Frivola, Claudio Puelles, Jai Herbert. He's fought some and beat some decent names. His striking, a little bit low volume at time, but he's pretty technical, kickboxing style. He fights very, very well at range. Can mix in some takedowns now and then, but he can also get taken down. I think the takedown defense has gotten a little bit better. He's good at reversing position. On top, he's very good. He flows with his grappling very well, and he can land some damage from top position too. But Nazim Sadykhov, I think he hits harder. I think he's got, not that Fares Ziam isn't a dog by any means. Fares Ziam's just very, good cardio, flowy. He's not looking to get in dog fights. He's looking to do everything methodically, technically. Whereas Nazim, he'll bite down on the mouthpiece and trade with you. We've seen him hurt, recovers, comes back to win some of those fights. We've seen him get submissions on guys like Terrence McKinney. Nazim can wrestle. He trains with Merab, Aljo. He's part of that crew. I think Nazim wins this fight. That's what I'm settling on, at least. Like I said, I've gone back and forth a little bit, but Nazim's got a little momentum with 2 KO wins, 1 TKO, 1 knockout. Gets the majority decision or the majority draw against Vyacheslav Borshev, and then won his 3 fights before that. So hasn't lost in the UFC. Fought Evan Elder, Terrence McKinney, Bonfim, Nicholas Mata, Vyacheslav Borshev. So, I mean, he's fought. It's not like he's fighting cans every time out. It's dog or pass, in my honest opinion. Like I told you at the beginning of this fight, this is one of the closest fights on the card. So if one guy's going to be plus money, I'd rather be holding that ticket if it goes to the scorecards. But I also think that, far as Ziam can get submitted, Nazim's got some good grappling. That's a possibility. But on the feet, I think he lands the bigger shots, wins the bigger moments. We'll see how the judges think it plays out. But I'll take Nazim Sadykhov on the money line at plus money here. All right, Maycee Barber, Karine Silva. This one all comes down to if Maycee Barber's healthy or not. We saw her go in there against Erin Blanchfield, and the fight gets canceled 5 minutes before the fight because she had a seizure, had a rough weight cut right before that. And it's not really good signs whatsoever. It's actually some red flags. But on the other side, Karine Silva, I think she's talented early in the fights, but we've seen her gas out on multiple occasions. She lost to Viviane Araújo pretty convincingly, and then a lot of people thought she lost to Dione Barbosa, although I thought that was a pretty close fight. And, Karine, if she can get her own takedowns, she can look for submissions. She makes it very tricky. She's going to submit a lot of the low-level girls. She's going to win a lot of those fights. But against a Maycee Barber, who has decent wrestling, who's a dog, who, marches forward and will kind of invite that brawling style at times, I think that's a style that could wear down Karine as the fight goes on. However, early in the fight, I think Karine is going to have a lot of good moments. And I think actually she'll probably win round 1 more often than not against the Maycee Barber. She's very big, physical, strong girl, and I think she can use that to her advantage. So ultimately, I don't trust Maycee Barber until I've seen her healthy a couple of fights. Karine Silva, I'm not crazy about her enough to want to, take a shot on the money line at these dog odds. But I do think Karine Silva can win 1 round. So I'm going to take her on the spread, plus 3.5. All she got to do is win 1 round in the judges' scorecard. She can go lose round 2 and 3. I don't care. But as long as she gets that round 1 or round 2, we got money in the bank. Simple as that for me. I'm not super invested in this fight, if I'm being honest. It honestly could be a parlay buster of the week if Maycee's not healthy or had a bad weight cut. She struggles to make weight, and I think it's going to take a toll as she keeps doing that over and over and over. Absolute banger with Terrence McKinney and Chris Duncan in the next fight. I think Terrence McKinney is one of the most dangerous round 1 fighters, or first 3-minute fighters in the UFC. He's got bricks in his hands, can knock you out, but his wrestling is super explosive, and he gets you to the ground, and he's very good with the back takes, and he's good on the back. He's got great submissions. We've seen him submit people, knock them out, but if he doesn't, he's got like 4 to 5 minutes maybe of cardio, and then the wheels completely fall off every single time. 7 losses in his pro career. I believe 2 of those are by sub, 5 of them are by knockout. The guy gets finished quite a bit. As of late, at least in the last couple of years, we've seen him put out stiff. We've seen him submitted by Nazim Sadykhov. I think Chris Duncan is going to have a good game plan for a guy like Terrence McKinney. Like if you're betting on Terrence McKinney and he's got to do it right away in the first probably 3 to 4 minutes rather than 5 minutes, that's a tricky game to play against a dude in Chris Duncan who's trained by the guys at American Top Team, who's been doing nothing but training wrestling and grappling with Grant Dawson, Renato Moicano, because it just tells me that Chris is just not even going to mess with the striking. I think Chris doesn't think McKinney can submit him, and I think Chris knows the more they wrestle and grapple, he's probably going to gas out, and then Chris Duncan can do whatever the hell he wants later on in the fight. Terrence McKinney, I don't think he likes getting hit. I think Chris Duncan hits hard, so if they do mess around on the feet and Terrence McKinney eats a couple of shots, I think he's shooting some takedowns shortly after that, and that's going to kind of unravel and start to be the beginning of the end. I don't know. I could see, I guess what I'm trying to say is I could see somebody getting knocked out here, but the books think that's the most likely outcome slightly as it's minus 150. But this fight to end by sub is plus 130. We've seen Chris Duncan in interviews this week literally say that he thinks he's going to go out there and win by sub. So he's going to be looking for it. Terrence McKinney can pull off subs. Chris Duncan's been, was locked in a rear naked choke and lost against Manuel Torres, who's known to be a brawler and striker. So it could happen on either side. I think you cover both guys really well with this prop. So officially the play is going to be fight ends by sub for McKinney and Duncan at plus 130. Now that I called that out, though, they're going to go out and do nothing but just trade heavy leather, as John Anik would say, and someone's getting the lights put out. But we'll stick with the plus money on that fight. All right, next fight up, Grant Dawson taking on Manuel Torres. Speaking of him, I see a lot of people on Manuel Torres this week, but this is another case of I think it's round one KO, or he's just going to get completely exhausted, gassed out, and mauled by Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson has that style, man. He sticks to his game plan. He'll stick to the wrestling, good single legs, double legs. He's very explosive. And he doesn't get discouraged if his opponents stuff one or two here. He's going to, get back into space, and he's going to look to duck under your shots or just put you up against the cage and work from takedowns from there. I think it's what he does here against Manuel Torres. Torres needs those big explosive combinations to really get his game going, which is just land those nasty elbows, big right hands, try to find knockouts. And if he starts doing that and loading up against Grant Dawson, I think is going to take him down at ease. Grant Dawson has been a high-level wrestler for a long time, and I actually think he's got a lot more finishing ability than people give him credit for. Finished Rafa Garcia, who is hardly ever finished in the UFC. He can pull off submissions. He can get ground and pound TKOs. And I don't think Manuel Torres' gas tank is going to hold up. And if it doesn't, I think he's going to be wide open to get finished in this spot, most likely by submission, because I think Grant's going to jump on it the first opportunity he gets. He wants another win. If he does keep racking up wins and impressive wins, like a submission or something, the UFC is going to be more inclined to keep bouncing him up the ranks and he can get a title shot one day. So I'm taking Grant Dawson to win this fight by submission or decision to get a better number. I think that's his win condition, is by sub or just using that wrestling and control to a decision. I don't think he's TKOing a tough guy like Manuel Torres. So that's what it is, Dawson sub or decision. Let's move on. All right, first fight on the main card, Yan Blachowicz, whatever you want to say, versus Bogdan Guskov. And first thing you got to address is the elephant in the room, right? Yan is 42, going to be 43 years old. He's still got it a little bit, man. He's super tough and durable, or has been in his UFC career, but just looking a little bit slower. He still finds ways to make fights very, very close. He's another one of these guys who have done nothing but fight the highest level of guys for years now. But at 42 years old, man, he's super hard to get my money. Unless he was going to be like the underdog or plus 150, plus 200, I'd be, thinking about a bet on him. But at chalk, it's tough for me to pull the trigger on a guy who is going to retire within the next fight or two, maybe this fight even, depending on what happens. I can't really get behind it, especially against the guy in Guskov, who's shown to be getting better. Big power in the hands, can knock out anybody. I mean, look what he did to Ryan Spann, dude. That uppercut into that combination, got on top, just, put the lights out. We saw him do similar things to other opponents. Got submitted by Volkan Oezdemir. I will say it makes me a little bit nervous, and I could see Yan maybe pulling off that submission. I think there's a good number. My boy Hey Jive Picks called it out when we did a show the other night. I think it was Yan by sub was like plus 900. So, that's very interesting. But at the end of the day, I like the youth. Guskov training in Russia with Walter Walker. The ground game is going to be sharpening up. And, if this plays out on the feet, I just think Yan, like I said, a little bit slower. And Guskov has fast hands and big power. I think he is going to connect a fair bit while it's standing and possibly find the knockout. But either way, I think he does more damage in this spot. Give me Bogdan Guskov as the underdog in kind of a passing of the torch type of fight between these two. Next fight, Henry Triple C Cejudo taking on Peyton Talbott. I've seen a lot of love for Henry this week too, and I get it a little bit. I mean, the wrestling was a massive concern for Peyton Talbott when he fought Raoni Barcelos. But Peyton Talbott's probably been training nothing but takedown defense and grappling, because we know the striking's there. Super accurate, super powerful, and his timing is phenomenal. We saw it with the knee against Cameron Simon. The elbows were nasty as well. Just everything, he met Cameron Simon just right in when he basically, it looked like Cameron Simon was just walking or moving into every single shot. And it just was a testament to the talent that Peyton Talbott is at the striking, and how good I actually think he can be in the UFC. Henry's problem is obviously he's 38 years old. He's in these smaller weight classes. Guys usually don't last as long down there, when everything's so fast-paced. And I do think he's going to struggle with the length and the speed of Peyton Talbott in this spot. If Henry comes out here and wrestles like crazy, maybe he has a chance or a path to victory, but he didn't do that against Song Yadong. He couldn't really get takedowns against Song. So, yeah, I mean, I think what I said on the show the other night with Hey Jive about this fight, and it's stuck in my mind, is that, Peyton was in trouble against Raoni Barcelos because not only was they getting taken down, he had to worry about the submission threats. Like, Barcelos is very good with the jiu-jitsu, and any mistake Peyton was going to make, Barcelos is going to be right there looking for the neck, almost submitted him at one time. Henry doesn't have that. Henry's not out there going for submissions. So I think Peyton, being a lot bigger, longer, stronger probably at this point in their careers, is going to be able to just stand back up and create space one way or the other. And when it's at space and these guys are striking, I think Peyton's landing a lot of body kicks, knees up the middle, elbows, doing a lot of damage. And for those reasons, man, I almost took him by KO straight up, but I'm going to take by KO or decision here just to get a little bit better odds. I'm just not completely sold that Triple C's chin is gone or anything, because we haven't really seen that many signs of it. I think he's a tough guy. He doesn't really, I'm not going to say he doesn't look for the door out, because that Song Yadong ordeal kind of seemed like he wanted out of that fight. But I don't think he's going to go out here and get put out by a big right hand or knee or anything like that. I think he'll survive, look to wrestle, maybe get 30-27 if it gets really bad. But, I got to throw that or decision in there just because, we've seen it happen plenty in the UFC before, right? When you think a guy's going to land a big knockout over a guy you think is older or washed, they somehow dog it out to the bell. So Peyton Talbott by knockout or decision is the official play for this one. All right, another intriguing fight. We're full of intriguing ones on this card. Brandon Moreno taking on Tatsuro Taira. I've kind of flip-flopped back and forth on this one as well. And everybody knows that Brandon Moreno is the better mixed martial artist in this spot. And I've seen everybody, it seems like they're on Brandon Moreno here this week. And I think a lot of that has to do with what happened in that Brandon Royval fight. And that's super valid points. Brandon Royval, what he did really, really well in that fight was just did not let Taira breathe while the fight was standing. He was constantly throwing a jab, feinting. I mean, he had to have attempted 600 significant strikes. I know he landed over 100, but he was always throwing something in Taira's face that got the rhythm off of Taira. It kept him from really shooting every takedown that he wanted to. And he just racked up those jabs, racked up those left hands, and eventually, it paid dividends with the gas tank and even hurt Taira on a few occasions. So I think Taira probably learned a lot from that fight. And while Brandon Moreno has good volume, it's not a Brandon Royval type of volume. In fact, Brandon Royval did the same thing to Brandon Moreno, getting him out of his rhythm, off of his flow. And Brandon Moreno just looked almost stumped on the feet when they fought. It was super weird. Just didn't look like himself. Tatsuro Taira on the feet, I think he's got good power. And, I don't think he's going to be a fish out of water against Brandon Moreno. I do think, Moreno, if this thing's just a pure striking match, I do think Moreno is way better with the boxing and more technical, is going to land more often. But Tatsuro is probably going to land some takedowns in this spot. And his control has been absolutely insane. I mean, he's got a 3.21 takedown average, and he's landing him at almost 50%. meaning he's landing half of the takedowns he's attempting, which is pretty crazy. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with the young kid here in Tatsuro Taira on the money line. I was originally on Moreno at plus money, but the whole world is on Moreno, it feels like, at plus money. And it just seems like another one of these possibilities that they're passing the torch to the younger guy in Tatsuro Taira, who I think is going to fight for belts in his career. He's young. He's had a lot of fights in the UFC now and took a loss to Brandon Royval, and I think he's learned something from it and can come out here and, have a better showing. He's got power in the hands too. It's not that he's landed a bunch of combinations or volume, but if he does land on Moreno, he could do damage. I'm telling you. Tatsuro Taira is a kid who I think is going to constantly be improving probably for the next 4 to 5 years. So give me Tatsuro Taira. We'll see what happens. I'm not super confident in this one, but I do think there's a good chance he goes out there and beats Moreno. All right. Co-main event and title fight. Alexandre Pantoja and Joshua Van. I wanted to take Joshua Van all week so bad, and the odds are phenomenal. If you're taking Joshua Van on the money line, all the power to you. I'm not going to talk you off that ledge any day of the week because Joshua Van has these skills. I think that you need to beat Pantoja offensively. Like, you have to have a lot of volume. You have to try to wear him down with the striking, go to the body, and be a better striker, which Joshua Van is. I don't know if he can stop the takedowns for 5 rounds. That's my only problem. Joshua Van hasn't fought anybody who's really willing to go out there and wrestle you to death. And, Ray Saruya, I guess you could say, is a guy kind of like that. And Ray Saruya landed 4 takedowns on Van, just couldn't control him. Pantoja is such a different animal that his control is so good. His takedowns are good. He's very physically strong. He's a good back taker. And on the feet, Pantoja is shown to be extremely durable and can take a shot, but can also land some too. He's got some power, and he uses that striking very well to set up his takedowns off of that. So Van's got to kind of implement that Brandon Royval game. He's got to constantly be throwing something in his face, get that flow, get that rhythm off. And, Van is only 24 years old. He's so young. My only problem is that it could be too much too soon. This spot, co-main event for a belt, last pay-per-view of the year, live crowd, the whole shebang. So I couldn't quite get the Joshua Van on the money line as much as I wanted to. If he wins, I think that'd be phenomenal for the sport just because he's such a fun, entertaining striker. But Pantoja's been a phenomenal champion too. I think a lot of people now respect Pantoja. They enjoy watching him fight. He's been in some fun ones. And he's finished his last 2 opponents in Kai Asakura and Kai Kara France, who were strikers. So I think you guys will maybe disagree with me in this spot because, we have seen some of these wrestlers just get control time all the way to a decision. But I'm taking this fight to end by finish at minus 130 because I think if it is too much too soon, Van hasn't been training that long. It definitely hasn't been training the ground game like Pantoja has. I think Pantoja could definitely submit him if the fight goes there and enough opportunities present themselves. But I think Pantoja does slow down a little bit in fights. He just dogs through it. But he hasn't really had somebody like Van who's got a ton of volume, but also some power. I don't think he's seen a guy like that and the accuracy in a while to where, if Van is stuffing takedowns and is way fresher in rounds 3, 4, 5, I could see Van maybe clipping him, hurting him, or get that TKO. So I'm taking this fight to end by finish, minus 130. Honestly, I love both guys, so it's going to be fun just to sit back and root for somebody to get their head taken off or choked out. So looking forward to this fight. Both guys, phenomenal. Pantoja, absolute legend, on the verge of being the greatest flyweight of all time. If he keeps it going over DJ, the level of competition is just not the same. And Joshua Van, one of the brightest fighters with a future in the UFC we've seen in a long time. So absolutely cannot wait for this one. All right, in the main event, Merab Dvalishvilli, Petr Yan. The rematch. Everybody talks about Petr Yan was hurt in their first fight, and I totally get it. Maybe he was. Maybe he wasn't. On that night, I don't think there was anything stopping Merab from implementing the game plan that he did. And Merab is just getting better and better, too. Since he became champion, it's insane. He's getting these finishes. His wrestling is obviously off the charts, but his striking's coming along. You saw him almost put out Corey Sandhagen, who is a durable, tough guy. Sean O'Malley, he struck with him a little bit in that first fight. Second fight, just mauled him and got the submission. Petr Yan, what he's done since he lost to Merab Dvalishvilli, beats Song Yadong in a super, super close fight in Miami. I was at that fight. I was holding a Petr Yan ticket, and I thought we lost, but it was very close. Beats Deiveson Figueiredo, which that was at a point I didn't think Deiveson was, I thought he was on the verge of kind of, trickling off a little bit. He beat Chito Vera and Cody Garbrandt, who were washed. I thought he was going to struggle with Yan, and he struggled really, really badly. So, that's a good win for Petr Yan. But again, that's a former flyweight. And then he beats Marcus McGee, who I think just bit off more than he could chew. He wasn't quite ready for this level in the UFC yet. Marcus McGee, phenomenal fighter. Great start to his UFC career. But, going from fighting Gaston Bolaños and Jonathan Martinez to Petr Yan is a massive jump. And, Marcus McGee even went out there and won that first round pretty convincingly. Now Petr is fighting Merab again after getting 50-45. I just don't see, after watching the last three fights of Petr Yan, I don't see what's changed since the first fight. He's literally got to defend every takedown and let his hands and kicks go while it's on the feet. The only problem with that is that Merab is such an aggressive wrestler and in your face, and so strong too, is that he throws you off your game. You can't get your offense going whatsoever. I mean, Merab has literally made a career on shooting 50 takedowns a fight, leaving you no room to breathe, no room to throw any punches or kicks. He stays safe that way. But on the same hand, when he does that, he zaps the gas tank of his opponent. I mean, that first fight, Petr Yan doesn't really get tired that often. Petr Yan was exhausted trying to defend over and over and over. Henry Cejudo could not keep up with Merab, got taken down 5 times, outstruck badly. Merab was just in his face the whole time. He put Jose Aldo against the cage and just would not let Jose breathe whatsoever. Kind of did the same thing with Sean O'Malley in their first fight, although I think Sean's got phenomenal cardio, and he took him down 6 times and just smothered him. Did it with Umar Nurmagomedov. I don't care if Umar broke his hand in the first round, whatever it was. He took Umar down 7 times, okay, and would not let him breathe, to where everyone, was kind of like, wow, maybe Umar has little gas tank issues. Maybe it was the injury, but a lot of it is just Merab being the machine, like his nickname would suggest. The guy is absolutely insane. Submits O'Malley, beats Corey Sandhagen, 50-44? 50-45 on some scorecards. So the guy is absolutely insane. Outside of Petr Yan just knocking out Merab, I don't see how he wins the fight, if I'm being honest. So, and maybe he does that. Like I said, I'm not saying that's out of the realm of possibility. We've seen Merab hurt before. It could definitely happen with a high-level striker like Yan. On the flip side for Merab, I think he's done messing around. I don't think he's trying to go to decision and racking up control time. I think he tried to finish Corey Sandhagen. Sandhagen is just insanely durable. Sean O'Malley went out there and subbed him like it was no problem. So yeah, I think he's looking for finishes more so now that he's the champion and in this point in his career, and they're starting to come a little bit. 5 rounds against Petr Yan. I think he'll have more opportunities this time around. I think he's going to get takedowns at a higher clip here. He's just getting better and better. It's hard to believe, but you just watch it, and he is somehow. I'm going to take a little bit of a flyer on this one. I'm going to take this fight to end by finish as well. And I'm thinking it's going to be this time, like my guess would be TKO on Petr Yan. Just getting dominant position over and over and landing enough damage or clipping him or something. We've seen Petr Yan hurt before. We've seen him, struggle with that at times. But on the same time, I think Petr Yan's win equity is finding a big shot, big knee up the middle, doing something like that and getting a knockout there too. And I'm not going to be surprised if Merab finds a sub, putting himself in all those dominant positions. The neck's liable to pop up at one point or the other. We'll see if he takes it. But, I think a lot of people are taking Merab by decision. I think that could be a parlay buster. So yeah, I'm going to go with kind of the opposite of what everybody else is doing. I'll take this fight to end by finish at some decent odds there. So yeah, that's what we're going with for the main event. It's hard to bet Merab at minus 410. You could parlay that possibly, but I'm not ready to bet against Merab. I don't care what the odds are on Petr Yan. I get people, bet value. Maybe there's value there on Petr Yan, but if he goes out and gets 50-45 or TKO'd, the value obviously wasn't there at all. So don't see what's changed much since the first time they fought. I'll take this fight to end by finish to cap off the last pay-per-view and the last fight on a pay-per-view card of 2025. So appreciate you guys once again. I got to announce the winner of the giveaway. I'm actually going to post it right here. If this is you, shoot me an Instagram DM and I will get you your winnings. I'll be Venmoing you or PayPal. If you have either of those, please let me know. Last week is the last card of the year, so we'll do another giveaway. We'll give away some more money for you guys since that's going to be it. And then we got a 6-week break, which is going to absolutely suck. I'm not looking forward to it whatsoever, but it will be good to, have more times to hang out with the kids all week long instead of just, constantly being working on UFC and content stuff. That will be nice, but by week 2 or 3, I'm going to be itching for some fights. I know you guys will be too. I'll say it next week. We'll talk about it after the show next week since it's the last card we'll talk about. But this year has been absolutely insane. The birth of the One Bet Show. Everything has gone phenomenal so far. We've had a killer year. We're going to have weeks where we struggle, but we've had a lot more weeks where we've won compared to loss. We've had 28 events so far since April, since our very first show. 22 of those, we picked more correct winning bets than we lost. And only 6 of those cards, we struggled a little bit. So that's a high percentage. I mean, you can go ask any professional gambler in the space. Pro gamblers hit their bets at, 53, 54%. And, that's pretty good. We've been fortunate enough to be hot enough this year to hit closer to 70%. Like I said, it's not going to last all the time. It's not going to be like that. But we've had a damn good run so far. And I appreciate all of you guys being a part of it, showing all the support week in, week out, setting your notifications so you know when I post this video so you guys can go watch it. Means the world to me. Appreciate all of you. If you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Turn your post notifications on so you can be alerted every time I drop the One Bet Show. And leave a comment because I'm picking one person who likes and comments this video for the $100 giveaway next week on the next show. So once again, thank you. Let's cash these bets for the second to last time in 2025, and we'll see you guys next week for the last card of the year.